Come on, come on, come on.
All right, 25 minutes before 9 o'clock. Beautiful looking Friday morning. Hope you're doing well. A little bit cool out there this morning. 70 degrees here at the Paddock Mall. Thank you for listening. We have now a moment to share some news with you. Robert and I will refrain from offering commentary and our opinions. This is not what this segment is about. This segment is about the news. We take the news and we shorten it, we abbreviate it, we deliver it to you bite-sized, and it gives you a chance to sit with your radio for a half hour and catch up on the news without trying to spend all day to do these things, because you do have your own life and your own news that you need to live. The agencies that we get the news from will also be mentioned when we have them, and most of the time we do. And if you go online to those agencies' websites, you'll be able to see the story in full. And again, just to remind you, most of these stories are covered by most of these agencies. The first one is from CNN. JP Morgan said yesterday that cyber criminals gathered information on more than 80 million account holders as part of a massive bank hack this summer. The revelation follows news back in August that hackers had infiltrated 7 of the country's largest banks using sophisticated malware to burrow into their computer systems and manipulate records. At JP Morgan, the hackers got contact information for 76 million households and 7 million small businesses, including names, addresses, phone numbers, and email addresses, as well as internal JP Morgan Chase information relating to such users.
An Army intelligence bulletin is warning U.S. military personnel to be vigilant after Islamic State militants called on supporters to scour social media for addresses of their family members and to show up at their homes and slaughter them. The assessment obtained by Fox News came from the Army Threat Integration Center, which issues early warnings of criminal and terrorist threats to Army posts worldwide. The advisory warns military personnel and their families about the Islamic State, calling on supporters to target their homes. While there is no independent intelligence to corroborate the ISIS threats, the bulletin recommends more than a dozen precautions to military personnel to protect their homes and their online profiles, reported by Fox News.
And from ABC News, an American freelance journalist working in Monrovia, Liberia, has tested positive for Ebola, according to a statement issued by his father. Ashoka Mukpo, who had been doing human rights work in West Africa, returned to Liberia when the Ebola outbreak began, according to his father, Mitchell Levy, in a story on ABC News. He said, quote, having lived there for the last several years, Ashoka was well aware of the risks, but felt strongly about trying to help provide honest perspective from the ground level. That quote from his father in the statement. He went on to say, quote, Ashoka is being evacuated to the USA, where he will receive the best possible treatment. The doctors are optimistic about his prognosis, unquote. NBC News hired Mukpo, who is 33 years old, as a cameraman earlier this year. He went to the Medicines Sans Frontiers Treatment Center earlier today after learning he had a fever and quarantining himself, according to the report from NBC.
Americans want guns without serial numbers, and apparently they want to make them at home. Cody Wilson's libertarian nonprofit Defense Distributed revealed the Ghost Runner, a $1,200 computer-controlled milling machine designed to let anyone make the aluminum body of an AR-15 rifle at home with no expertise, no regulation, and no serial numbers. Since then, he's sold more than 200 of the Footcube CNC mills, 175 in the first 24 hours, which began on Wednesday. That's well beyond his expectations. Wilson had planned to sell only 110 of the machines total before cutting off orders, reported by Wired.
And from the Reuters news agency, Republican lawmakers are incensed President Barack Obama is underplaying the threat posed by the Ebola virus's spread to the United States and at the inadequate national response. I am concerned about it, and it's a big mistake to downplay it and act as if it's not a big deal, is a quote from Senator Rand Paul, a Republican from Kentucky. He made that statement on conservative radio show host Laura Ingram's program, accusing Obama administration officials of putting political correctness ahead of public health. Paul and other Republicans are blasting the White House's refusal to put limits on air travel, a step taken by carriers elsewhere, such as British Airways and Kenya Airways, which has canceled many flights to Africa. Recent events highlight the need for elevated levels of screening at U.S. ports of entry, according to Ohio Republican Senator Rob Portman in a statement he made yesterday.
The U.S. Supreme Court yesterday took no action over whether it plans to take up the question of whether states can ban gay marriage. The 7 different cases pending before the court were not mentioned in a list of new cases that the court agreed to hear on ahead of its new term, which begins this coming Monday. The move does not necessarily mean the court will decline to hear the cases during the new term. It often takes more time to consider particularly noteworthy or complicated cases before deciding whether to take them up, reported by Reuters.
From UPI News, people of the Jewish faith throughout the world will observe Yom Kippur from sunset today through nightfall tomorrow. Yom Kippur, from the Hebrew words for day and to atone, literally a day of atonement, is a joyous time of forgiveness, spiritual renewal, and beginning anew that commemorates God forgiving Israelites their idolatry in worshiping the golden calf. Considered the holiest day of the year and the most important holiday in the Jewish calendar, Yom Kippur is a day of intense prayer and fasting. It is also a day temples and synagogues see their highest rate of attendance each year. Referred to as the Sabbath of Sabbaths, Yom Kippur completes the Jewish high holy days, or days of awe, also called the days of repentance, which begin 10 days earlier with Rosh Hashanah, the 2-day celebration of the Jewish New Year.
The federal government is looking at nuclear weapons as a possible answer to protect ourselves from dangerous earthbound asteroids. According to a report from the Government Accountability Office to the Senate, several U.S. agencies are looking at retaining nuclear warheads no longer needed for national defense as a possible weapon against incoming asteroids. The main focus of the GAO report was what the federal agency in charge of nuclear weapons, the National Nuclear Security Administration, needs to do to complete its planned dismantlement of part of the U.S. nuclear arsenal, reported by CBS.
From the Associated Press, a road crew in Washington state has had it with a beaver that persists in building a dam under a bridge. Crews have removed a beaver dam 3 times since August. Each time the beaver rebuilds it near Port Orchard on the west side of the Puget Sound across from Seattle. One was as large as 40 feet long and 3 feet high. Kitsap County Roads Superintendent Jacques Dean told TV station KOMO that he appreciates how industrious the animals are, but the water threatens to undermine bridge abutments. The county decided to spend $15,000 to hire a beaver trapper to get rid of the beaver.
Wilfred Smallwood, who says he's a half-brother of Dallas Ebola patient Thomas Eric Duncan, said on a conference call yesterday that he does not believe Duncan knew he had Ebola when he left Liberia for the United States. Smallwood said that when Duncan first visited Texas Health Presbyterian Hospital, neither Duncan nor the hospital knew then that he had Ebola. Duncan, a resident of Liberia, was visiting his son and his son's mother in Dallas, reported by CNN.
And from the Washington Times, former President George W. Bush took time out from his scheduled play at the 4th annual Warrior Open golf tournament for veterans to tell Fox News' Brian Kilmeade, yes, the incursion into Iraq was worthwhile. He said, quote, "The world is better off Without Saddam Hussein in power, the Taliban in power, he said. Mr. Kilmeade referenced a 2007 warning that Mr. Bush gave about leaving Iraq too early, during which he spoke of the potential for terrorists to establish a safe haven and of the likelihood that escalating violence could force U.S. troops to return to the region, and asked, "How did you know?" Mr. Bush said he learned plenty about the realities of evil when terrorists struck American soil back in 2001. We need to take a little break, and we'll be right back with more news bites after the weather and a few commercials. This is The Source, WOCA Ocala.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accident. It'll be partly sunny and very warm today with a shower and thunderstorm around this afternoon, the high 86 to 90. Partly to mostly cloudy tonight with a shower or thunderstorm around those 70 to 74. For tomorrow, variable cloudiness and not as warm with a shower or thunderstorm through the early afternoon hours, the high 81 to 85. For Sunday, mostly sunny and comfortable, highs in the 70s. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Joe Lundberg.
Each morning, we wake up thankful to live in a free nation with liberty and justice for all. But sometimes those liberties can be put in jeopardy, and you may have questions about what to do or who to call. Let Doc Blanchard of Blanchard, Miriam, Adele, and Kirkland help you find the answers. Attorneys at law since 1974 and located in downtown Ocala. If you have legal issues, don't go it alone. Call 352-732-7218. Blanchard, Miriam, Adele, and Kirkland, helping protect your liberties every day. Let's face it, nowadays it can be hard to find American-made products, and that's something that Cabinet Sales of North Florida is well aware of. That's why they're an authorized dealer of Wellborn Cabinetry, family-owned and American-made since 1961. Cabinet Sales of North Florida is your answer for complete turnkey kitchen remodels and whole-house cabinetry. Their cabinets are finished with solvent-based enamels for a long-lasting finish that's second to none. Available in an incredible selection of door styles and colors to choose from to turn your dream kitchen into a reality. In-house design and drawing services are available. Come by and see our displays for yourself at the Floors of the Villages, 3935 County Road 216 in Oxford, or Exquisite Design Kitchen and Bath in Bellevue, right across the street from the Bellevue Library. So whether you're looking for bookcases, kitchen, bath, or outdoor kitchen, Cabinet Sales of North Florida is your one-stop source of quality cabinets. For a free estimate, call 352-427-2647. That's 352-427-2647. Cabinet Sales of North Florida.
Hey, I'm Gary.
And I'm Eric. Did you know that Red Eye Radio is on WOCA The Source every night from 2 to 6 a.m. and it's live?
That's right. No tape shows here.
We know that the news doesn't sleep.
And neither do we. So we're here with you live from 2 till 6 a.m. every weekday. Call us 866-90-RED-EYE. So join me, Gary McNamara.
And me, Eric Harley, every weeknight to discuss the latest in news and entertainment.
Right here on WOCA The Source.
Hey, Matt, I know Sunrise Automotive does auto stuff, but I need some tires for my truck. Can you recommend someone?
Yes, I can. We do that.
No, I mean, I need them installed and balanced and all that.
Yep, we do that.
Well, my son needed his windows tinted.
Yep, we do that.
I need my
too.
seat replaced.
Yep, we do that too.
I need a new roof line and a new spoiler and a new
Yep,
trunk.
we can even do that too.
Okay, I get it. I suppose you can also do a radio show too, huh?
Well, as a matter of fact, join me every Monday at 10 for auto repair with personal care here on The Source.
Of course you do.
All right, 12 minutes before 9 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. I have an interesting story I want to begin this second half with from ABC News. And it is written in the first person by one of the reporters for Good Morning America. And so just understand when I'm reading it, that's why it's written this way. It was the dateline is in Monrovia, Liberia. And this is what he wrote. What is his name? Richard Besser, Dr. Richard Besser, okay, for Good Morning America. He wrote this: amidst the deadliest Ebola outbreak in history, it's easier to get help if you are dead than if you are alive. My producer and I were driving back from an assignment in Monrovia where we filmed this morning's Good Morning America segment when we saw a burial team working along the roadway surrounded by crowds of angry locals. A community leader said they had been trying to get help for the dead man for days, but no ambulance ever came. When the man died, a burial team came within 1 hour. We watched as the burial team suited up and approached the body lying against a wall. They sprayed it down with bleach and moved it to a black plastic sheet and began to wrap it up. We couldn't get him help when he was alive, a community leader told me, meaning the journalist. They only come when you die. Just then, the dead man moved his arm, a clear sign that he was still alive. The burial team unwrapped him and put him back on the ground. The man was alive, but looked like he would only last a few more hours. About 10 minutes later, an ambulance pulled up, and a separate team of health workers loaded him into the back. The crowd went wild, cheering. Wow. That is a crazy story, but an interesting one, so thought I'd share it with you.
The Israeli authorities are being urged to shut down the internet account of an activist based in the country who is accused of harassing French reporters. The activist, a Frenchman called Gregory Chilly, says that the journalists have shown themselves to be pro-Palestinian. On Tuesday, the father of one reporter died of heart failure after being the victim of a hoax call from Mr. Chilly. Mr. Chilly strongly denied any responsibility for the death. Mr. Chilly said in a tweet that the call was made 5 days before the death of the father of journalist Benoit Lecourre. He said he was considering libel action against news organizations that made the allegations, reported by the BBC.
And from ABC, Charlotte Clinton Mesvinsky is just 5 days old and already appears to be a living embodiment of themes her grandmother Hillary Clinton could put to use on the campaign trail. During her prepared remarks at a women's real estate convention in Miami, the former Secretary of State used a line never heard before on her paid speaking circuit, one about the future for her new granddaughter. She said, quote, "I think my granddaughter has just as much God-given potential as a boy who was born in that hospital on that same day," Clinton told the crowd at the Lowe's Miami Beach Hotel, adding, quote, "I just believe that. That's the way I was raised," unquote.
Each of us has a guardian who protects and helps us understand things, says the Pope, in contrast to his predecessor, who was known as a killjoy. Pope Francis said yesterday that guardian angels exist and people who listen to their advice are less likely to make the wrong decisions. This is a quote: "The doctrine on angels is not fantastic. No, it's reality." The Pope said this during his daily Mass in the small chapel in his residence at the Vatican. The quote continues, "According to church tradition, we all have an angel with us who protects us and helps us understand things." This message was given to mark the Feast of the Guardian Angels celebrated by Catholics yesterday, reported by The Guardian.
And the next story is from the Christian Science Monitor. Teachers feel more prepared to teach the Common Core state standards and are already starting to see students improve their critical thinking skills, but the enthusiasm has dipped since last year, and only half say the new standards will be positive for most students. Those are some key findings in a survey of 1,676 K-12 teachers in the 43 states that have adopted Common Core, released this morning by Scholastic and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. The Common Core continues to generate political controversy. Some states have backed away from the math and English standards designed to promote college and career readiness, and Governor Bobby Jindal of Louisiana has sued the Obama administration, saying it coerced states into adopting them. But for teachers in 43 states, implementation is a day-to-day reality. The survey, a follow-up to a larger survey last year, gives insight to the mixture of progress and continuing challenges in the classroom. Without a lot of resources, state and district leaders are facing challenges trying to deal with the thornier aspect of implementation, professional development being one of them. That, according to Maria Ferguson, Executive Director of the Center on Education Policy at George Washington University.
Former President George W. Bush says that he thinks his brother Jeb wants to be president. This is his quote: "I think he'd be a great president. He understands what it's like to be president for not only the person running or serving, plus family." Bush added that his brother is a very thoughtful man and he's weighing his options. The younger Bush has been campaigning aggressively for Republican candidates running this midterm cycle. He remains much discussed discussed as a potential 2016 candidate. It is unclear whether he would have the full support of a Republican establishment that's also eyeing Governor Chris Christie and other possible contenders, and the primary is likely to be a contentious one that pits more mainstream GOP hopefuls against conservative firebrands like Ted Cruz and Rand Paul, reported by MSNBC.
And from the BBC, Google has removed tens of thousands of nude photos stolen from celebrities and published online. A statement from the web giant said it has deleted photos within hours of requests being made and has closed hundreds of accounts. It comes after reports Hollywood entertainment lawyer Marty Singer has threatened to sue Google for violating privacy. The New York Post published a letter addressed to senior staff at Google. The letter states that Google failed to act expeditiously and responsibly to remove the images and was perpetuating the despicable conduct of these habitual pervert predators. Cara Delevingne and Jennifer Lawrence were among the group of stars targeted by cyber thieves who posted their stolen nude photos on sites including 4chan.
Russian authorities have canceled a long-running foreign exchange program with the United States, alleging that a gay couple persuaded a young man to stay with them and apply for asylum after he was meant to return home. In announcing the end of Russia's participation in the U.S. government-run Future Leaders Exchange Program, Children's Rights Ombudsman Pavel Ashatov claimed that two gay men became the legal guardians of a Russian student after the student left his original host family and stayed in America when the school year ended in May, reported by The Guardian.
And from CNS News, during her weekly press briefing on Wednesday, House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi did not answer a question put to her by CNSnews.com on whether any future executive action taken unilaterally by President Barack Obama to legalize illegal aliens in the United States should include illegal aliens from Iraq. CNSnews.com asked Pelosi, quote, in 2007, there was an article in the El Paso Times, and then Director of National Intelligence Mike McConnell said that, quote, a significant number of Iraqis had that year already come across the southwest border of the United States. If President Obama does what he has promised to do and takes executive action to legalize some illegal aliens in the United States. Again, the story is from CNS News.
Recent headlines could make you think this election would be different. Perhaps for the first time since the Great Recession, the economy would not be the top issue. The latest Associated Press GFK poll suggests that is not going to happen. 9 in 10 likely voters in the survey said the economy was an important issue, outpacing rising concerns about terrorism, ongoing concerns about health care, and the social issues that have led to sharp clashes on the campaign trail. Where voters stand on the top issues in the midterm elections, the nation's economic blues remain at the top of voters' lists of important issues. Asked to name the nation's biggest problem, 19% do cite the economy, significantly higher than the 12% who named the next highest issue on the list, terrorism and national security. Among all adults, 4 in 10 approve of President Barack Obama's handling of the issue, reported by CNS News.
And from the Fort Lauderdale Sentinel-Sun, a suburban West Palm Beach man put a 2-year-old child in a laundry dryer and was arrested on the charge of aggravated child abuse. 27-year-old Christian Echeverria was arrested by Palm Beach County Sheriff's deputies. According to the arrest report, Echeverria was caring for the Royal Palm Beach boy the night of September 19th. At one point in the evening, another person at the house heard crying coming from the dryer, but was told by Echeverria that nothing was in the dryer. The person then opened the door of the dryer, only to find the child in there, crying. The person told deputies the dryer was not on at the time. An investigation began when a caregiver discovered that the boy had several bruises when she picked him up on September 20th. The boy was taken to a Wellington hospital and held for observation for 2 days. A doctor noted that the boy's bruises appeared to be inflicted injuries. The arrested man, Echeverria, remains in the Palm Beach County Jail in lieu of a $25,000 bond.
In these dramatic and perilous times, United Nations Deputy Secretary General Jan Eliasson urged the international community to reaffirm the power and potential of bringing about change through peaceful means, following in the footsteps of Mahatma Gandhi, who inspired today's International Day of Nonviolence. The response to violence is all too often more violence when, in fact, reconciliation and dialogue is needed, reported by UN News.
And that's all the time we have for News Bites. Jim George is up next to educate us about that TV you have in your living room. Robin, how many stories today?
23.
23. We'll take a little break. We'll be right back. This is The Source, WOCA Ocala.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.